It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hour 2, Full Court Press. Jason Walker here, Eric Frandsen sitting across from me. Still got a lot of things to go over in this Hour 2. We've got Stat to Blow Our Mind, Player of the Week. We've got our own, the Mountain West Media poll for men's basketball is going to come out tomorrow, I believe. But we're going to give our own thoughts. We're going to give our own little ballots, what if we were voting? And so we'll reveal our list of how we think the teams are going to line up. So
I got to tell you, I had a lot of ink on my list.
Scratching things out.
I scratched a lot.
Yeah, I had.
Because I initially just this is what I think, and then I started to do some research and look back at a few things, and no, this team can't be that high. This team can't be that low.
Yeah, I have scratched out a couple. I came in here with it on this pad, and I was like, no, I flipped a couple of teams, and I don't know, I'm kind of iffy on a couple others, so we'll see. I may be a little higher on Utah State than maybe I should, but what the heck? We're broadcasting the Logan. I might as well be biased.
That's right. That's true.
So,
did you, by chance, consider how many teams you think will make it to the NCAA tournament and how many might make it to the NIT?
I don't really think about the NIT because I know we talked about this yesterday where I was like, I think, at minimum, probably a two-bid league. Third team if somebody kind of steps up and surprises a little bit. 4 if, basically there's a possibility for 4 if we have that 3-team scenario and a random team wins the tournament.
Right.
So like maximum of 4, more likely 2, maybe 3.
Because as I looked at it, I've got 2 solid NCAA tournament teams. And then I think I've got 2 NIT teams.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. You can get 2, maybe 3 NIT.
Yeah.
Probably just the 2. Might end up only being 1 NIT team if the one, surprises and jumps into the NCAA.
Yeah, and that's true. It's a possibility. Because the conference could be, at least on the top end, there's, in my mind, a separation between 2 and 3. There's a pretty good gap.
Yeah.
And then there's kind of a couple of teams in the middle of there, and then there's another drop-off. There's a few teams, and there's another drop-off at the bottom.
Yeah, there's like a tier. So maybe we should have prepared and had like a tier list of where these teams are. I could probably cut off tier 1 and then tier 2. Yeah, I could probably. There's a few different tiers I could do here.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to, I could. Yeah, easily.
Yeah, I think I can get 4 tiers. We'll see if we agree or disagree. You might have more or less. Tiers.
No, I can.
Do 4?
I see it in 4. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, the cutoff for between that 3rd and 4, I kind of I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how much I like it when I actually have to say it out loud and commit to it. Because right now, we can put all the ink we want, and then at some point we have to. That's always the tricky point, is the moment where you have to commit, all right, this is my prediction. And then the moment you say it out loud, you're like, I didn't like that. Can I take it back?
Yes.
Happens all the time. We do have one text coming in. If you want to text into the show, 435-339-0321. That's the text line. Texts are open. We're open for business on text. So 6543, he says the NCAA should limit the teams from this conference until they show they can win a game.
Yeah, the Mountain West hasn't really helped itself much with sending a bunch of teams and then not having them perform. And so we have these ebbs and flows where we have a year like we did last year, like, there's all this great basketball in the Mountain West. we got to send multiple teams, like a lot of teams from the Mountain West to the tournament because there's great basketball happening there. And then they all underperform. And then it kind of, the pendulum swings the other way, like, we gave you a chance and you didn't take advantage of it. So you fooled us. And then they don't get very many teams into the tournament again for a little while because everybody's like, nah, you're just fool's gold over there.
Yeah. I think the only two teams we've really seen perform well in the last few years were San Diego State and Nevada. I think both of them have had one deep run each, I think.
Yes.
Because Nevada, I think, made it to the Sweet 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then did San Diego State do the same? Or did they only make it to, I guess...
That's good.
I guess Sweet 16, you have to make it there for it to count as a deep run, because that's just two wins gets you to Sweet 16.
How deep is a deep run in Mountain West standards? It's not that deep.
2 wins, I guess.
Yeah.
I'd have to look it up. But yes, those two teams have somewhat represented, or at least Nevada, unless I'm just misremembering San Diego State going to the Sweet 16 one time. There hasn't been much good representation lately. But I still want them to keep going because I root for these teams. It's like when I talk about Boise State playing non-conference games, or at least especially maybe their bowl games or whatnot. I'm usually rooting for Boise State to kind of represent the conference well, despite some of my, the fact that I've been rubbed the wrong way by a lot of fans. Kind of same with BYU, but I still want them to perform well.
And those are important financial units to the Mountain West when those teams make those runs. So it's okay.
Yeah, we want them. Sometimes I know there was one year I think I was rooting against Nevada, and another year I was rooting against San Diego State just because there's a bit of rivalry spirit there, and it's like, I don't want you to do well.
Okay, so San Diego State made the Sweet 16 in 2011 and 2014.
Okay.
2015, they just made it to the round of 32. And then 18, 21, and 22, they've just had first-round exits.
So, certainly not bad. Utah State's only had first-round exits, or nothing at all, for 20 years now.
Yeah.
So, all right, really quick. Want to get to Stat That Blew Our Minds and Player of the Week.
Ooh, all right.
I don't have the fancy intro audios queued up.
So that means you have to do it yourself.
All right. Bum ba da ba bum bum.
Oh, gosh.
It's time for the stat that blew our minds.
Wow. Maybe I'm going to regret saying that.
Please don't change the channel. All right, Eric, let's start with you.
Okay, so Saturday night, we were focused on the football game, but there was a baseball game that was pretty epic.
Baseball?
But not for all the right reasons. I mean, when 18 innings, Astros eventually beat the Mariners 1-0. But that was the second game in postseason history to be scoreless through 13 innings, and both happened just this last week. It was the first scoreless playoff game through 15 or more innings. It tied for the longest postseason game by innings, and the fourth to go to 18. And it was the third longest postseason game, which went 6 hours and 22 minutes.
That's nuts.
That is incredibly long. And, the concessions probably shut down, like in the 8th inning, and like hours ago. And you're still there?
Yeah, it's like at that point, it's not even worth it. It's not even exciting baseball. It's, he's pitching. Oh, it's another pitching change, and another guy struck out, and it's like, are you even playing baseball at that point?
No. So it just blew my mind just how long it went, and just some of the things to consider with the length of the ball game.
All right, so I'll go to mine. So also during that football game, I got distracted looking something up because I just got fixated on this one stat trying to figure it out. So in that game, Utah State had 4 different players attempt to pass. Cooper Legas, Levi Williams, Bishop Davenport, and Terrell Vaughn threw one on a trick play. So that's the first time Utah State has had 4 players throw a pass in a single game since 2004. September of 2004 in a game against Alabama. And I forgot to write down who those 4 players were, but it was another game where there was like 3 quarterbacks and then 1 skill position player. So it's just like, So many players throwing a pass. And also kind of as a companion to that, this season, 7 different players have thrown the ball for Utah State at some point.
Whoa.
So, and that's the first time it's happened since 2000.
Wow.
So it's a lot of people are throwing the ball for Utah State.
Okay, so you got the 4 quarterbacks, Terrell Vaughn,
Brian Cobbs.
Brian Cobbs, Stephen Cotzenly did
Yes,
one on
he's the
a
other
fake punt,
And that's all of them.
and that gets us to 7. Yeah. Okay.
So there you go. It's just a lot of people throwing the rock for Utah State. All right.
Yes.
Now let's move it on to Player of the Week, and I'm not giving you an intro. Just go.
I have to give mine to Dalton Kincaid, the tight end at Utah. He just had an outstanding performance in their game against USC. 16 receptions for 234 yards and 1 touchdown. Surprisingly, he only got 1 touchdown out of all of that. But he was 1 reception shy of the single-game college football record for a tight end. And here's the other thing that's kind of surprising here. This may have been in the stat that blew my mind, but Cam Rising was 16 of 16 when he was targeting Kincaid in that 43-42 victory.
Dang, that's pretty good. They don't call tight ends security blankets for nothing.
No. I mean, it easily could have gone to Cam Rising, but I had to give it to Kincaid.
Yeah, you got to give it to the guy who's just all of the completions.
Yes.
So my Player of the Week is actually the second time I'm giving a Player of the Week to this person. Sergio Cordova, or Scordova, as we like to call him, had 2 goals in what was unfortunately a losing effort for Real Salt Lake, but he had a goal in the 3rd minute, scored a penalty later, put RSL up 2-0. RSL should have won based off of that effort, but then they blew it, and they lost to Austin FC in penalties to end their season. So
They were there.
just really disappointing.
Yeah, that's frustrating, especially when you score and you get up like that early and you have that opportunity to just hold on, just seal the deal.
Yeah. 15th minute, they were up 2-0. And by the end, they lost 3-1 in penalties. Which I don't know how you lose 3-1 in penalties. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, those were I didn't see all of them, but I saw quite a few of those attempts, and they were a lot of bad attempts.
Yeah. And that's the thing with penalties. I don't know if I've ever seen a goalkeeper make a save where it wasn't partially the kicker's fault. If you don't score a penalty, it's your fault. You should always beat the keeper. Unless you're just not good enough, which is the case for most people.
Yeah.
They're not good enough
Yeah.
to do that every time. But if you're good enough, the keeper, no matter how good the keeper is, you will always beat him if you know where to put it and are accurate enough to put it there every time.
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. I like that.
There we go.
If you got a player that stood out to you, we'd love to get your nominations, your recommendations on our Full Court Press text line, 435-339-0321.
All right, so we got to move on. So we teased this multiple times now. We were just talking about it before we went to our stat and player. Our ballots for, the finish of how Mountain West men's basketball is going to go. So if you do this 1-1, like who we think's going to finish first and then second, do you want to go up from the bottom?
Well, let's go top down.
Okay.
Because I think that's early on. I think it's, well, I guess if you go from the bottom up, I think we'll be pretty close to the same there, too. But,
yeah. It's that middle where we begin to, because that's the thing is you can pick the top teams, you can pick the bottom teams, and it's like, all right, what do I do with the middle 5?
Right. That's always tricky. It's always very complicated to try to determine that. It's just kind of muddied in there. But number 1, I mean, is it anybody else but San Diego State?
No, that's who I got. San Diego State. They're 19th in the AP poll. They've got a lot of players. Most people are projecting them to have Player of the Year on their team, so it's like, just go with them. Who else?
Well, I think that I actually think the Player of the Year is going to come from Wyoming. I actually think they have 2 guys who could challenge to be that Player of the Year when it's all said and done. It could either be Hunter Maldonado or it could be Graham Ike. For that and many other reasons, I've got Wyoming at number 2. in Mountain West preseason poll.
Yeah, so I've also got Wyoming at number 2, so not much difference there so far. We're really spicing it up.
And for me, that's my top tier. That's my tier number 1. It's just those 2 teams, which is a little disappointing. In years past, I think we could have gone 4, maybe even 5 teams and say this is all tier 1. It's going to be a great battle. Don't know who's going to win. Great talent up and down all these teams. But this year, I only see 2 teams in that top tier in the Mountain West.
Yeah, we've had plenty of years with 3 and even 4 sometimes. But yeah, this year, like I said, I drew that line right beneath number 2, and then I've got 3 teams in my second tier. I don't know.
I do too.
Okay, so let's see how this goes. All right, I'll go ahead and go first with number 3. I am. It was tricky who I wanted to put at number 3 and number 4. It's just like, who's that 3rd and 4th best team? And I ended up going with New Mexico. So I think they'll manage to get a little bit higher than they have in years past. So I think they'll manage to at least get up to number 3, maybe number 4.
For number 3 on my list, I also have the Lobos. I think they had some young, raw talent last year that's coming back. It's a lot expected of them. They had 2 players who averaged 18, 19 points a game, and they're back. And Richard Pitino, I think, give them a little bit more time. They've got some real talent there. I think they're going to be one of the surprises because they've struggled for a little while, and I think this is part of them bouncing back. I think there's some expectations on them. They're not quite in the top tier yet, but they're. I think they're an NIT-bound team this year.
Yeah, I think so. All right, so at number 4, I've got Boise State. They did lose some guys, but I think there's some guys who can step up. Leon Rice, he can make things happen. He's a good coach. And Boise State's always at least decent. They're never bad, at least with Leon Rice. So just, again, that's somewhere in tier 2, but I believe they're going to come in around number 4.
I also have Boise State at number 4.
All right, my next pick is San Jose State at number 4. No, just to be different.
No, I like Boise State. I know they lost some key players, but they had the freshman of the year last year. He's a dynamic player. He's going to be back with more talent and more opportunity. I'm with you. Leon Rice, he's not my favorite coach. I think there's some idiosyncrasies with him that drive me nuts. I think he has a good regular season, then he collapses at the end. But he always coaches a pretty solid basketball team, and I think there's enough talent there coming back that they're going to be the number 4 team in the Mountain West.
All right, so number 5, both me and Eric, since apparently we just have the same, so I'm just saying both me and Eric have UNLV at number 5.
I did not have UNLV.
Oh, there we go. Finally a difference. So I had UNLV at 5. Who did you have at number 5?
I put Colorado State. Now,
Okay.
I debated. This is the team that went on the biggest yo-yo for me. Initially, I dropped them pretty low on the news of the Isaiah Stevens foot injury. But there are other players there that are good, and Nico Medved is a good coach. So I'm kind of similar to Boise State, where they lost players. Colorado State probably lost more, but there are still some good players there, and that's a good coaching staff. So for that reason, I've got Colorado State at number 5.
See, I really penalized Colorado State in my rankings. I probably would have had them. I probably would have had them like number 4 if they hadn't lost Stevens. But I think his loss is just huge to where that's the guy that leads the team, and there's such an impact with that, where it makes everything easier for everyone else, and it, raises everyone else's level. When you don't have that, suddenly everyone's struggling. So that was my reason behind dropping Colorado State to, you'll find out in a couple spots. Yeah, so that's the end of my tier 2, and it's also the end of yours, so we have a difference in tier slightly now. All right, so tier 3, I'll let you go first on that one.
At number 6, I have UNLV. I have the Rebels there, a team that normally has interesting talent but underperforms. Lost a lot of guys last year, but they always have highly regarded recruiting classes. But I think because of that alone, they're going to have some talent that are going to scare some people. So I've got UNLV at number 6.
So this is where I say I probably have Utah State too high, That's who I have at number 6. Right now, I go up and down on the teams I follow, and right now, I'm riding the optimistic wave with Utah State. Going to that scrimmage, and I, saw some things where I feel like there's room for this team to be good. Some of that's maybe me hoping that Max Shulga is going to suddenly become an every night scorer. Again, I'm just riding an optimistic wave where I think there's room for this team to be good defensively, maybe even borderline great defensively, and be good enough on offense to be in the middle of the pack.
Okay.
So, again, like I said, being optimistic here, might as well.
At number 7, who do you have at number 7?
Colorado State. That's where they fell all the way down to.
Okay. In that place, I've got Nevada. Nevada was the most disappointing, I think, from the Mountain West a year ago, with all the hype they had with their coach. But that being said, they have made some changes. I think they've cleaned out whatever the miscontent was going on there in their locker room, and they can be a dangerous team. So proud heritage there, and I've got Nevada at number 7.
All right, number 8. Who do you got at number 8?
That's where I have Utah State, and I labored with that one too. I had them as high as 6 at one point. I eventually put them at 8. I haven't seen Taylor in this offense. I'm concerned about his foot injury, and I'm concerned about can the Aggies get enough points? Will they have enough guys to score points to stay in this in the hunt in this league? And what will they do on their interior defense? Those are my biggest questions for me. I really hope I'm wrong, but I got Utah State at 8.
Yeah, I think for me, the optimistic streak has only happened because I've suddenly become more optimistic about maybe Max Shulga being able to score or Taylor Funk being able to score. Made them kind of platooning as dual lead scorers. Although I'm not even sure if Max Shulga is going to start, because I'm not sure if Ryan Odom has the guts to bench RJ Idlerock. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. In a couple weeks, I'm probably going to be saying, Utah State's going to finish like 10th, and they're going to be terrible. And
but who did you have at number 8?
At number 8, I had Fresno State.
Interesting.
So okay. I know that they've got a really big man to replace, literally, in Orlando Robinson, but I think they'll at least manage to be okay. They usually bring in some athletes, and so I think they're at least going to be, at that point, number 8, you're bottom half of the conference, so I guess they won't be okay.
At number 9, I have Fresno State.
All right.
And that's where I have my cutoff for my next tier.
Yeah.
After number 9.
Yeah, number 9, I have Nevada. That's where I've got them, and I also cut off the end of that tier. So tier 4, the last 2 teams, we'll see if we match on this one. I'll say at number 10, I have San Jose State.
Same. They only had, 6-7 wins all last year, and their best player is back. Well, yeah, their best player is back. Tim Miles is trying to rebuild something there. That's not an easy, quick turnaround process, but just because Tim Miles is there, I didn't put them dead last.
Yeah, and so at dead last, we both have Air Force.
Yes.
So just a team that it's really hard for them to be good in basketball. Like in football, they can run the triple option, and it's kind of gimmicky enough to catch people off guard, and they run it super well, and teams aren't ready for it. There's not really an equivalent of that in college basketball.
Yeah, there's the Princeton offense when it's cutting and movement and being precise, but it doesn't trump just raw talent, and you have a hard time getting that at the Air Force Academy like some of these other schools can get.
Yeah, you got to get guys with length, speed, athleticism, because those things really matter in college basketball. They matter in football, but they really matter in basketball. It's arguably the most athletic sport. And when it's one of the most athletic sports, you need athletes.
You need athletes.
So
there's our pre-preseason Mountain West poll. The official one comes out tomorrow. We'll update you on that, who they think the preseason players of the year will look like. and first team. If any Aggies might end up on any honorable mention lists, I don't see them on any first or second teams.
I saw one player on a second team All Mountain West ballot. I saw Taylor Funk. That's who it was. So, and it's not even like a mainstream. It was like the Almanac from the Field of 68. They did like their whole huge preview, kind of like Phil Steele does his.
Oh, right.
They were basically trying to emulate that with this. Seems like they did an all right job. I've used it for my research. So, seems all right. And they have Taylor Funk on the second team. So that's our thing. We're going to go to break really quick. When we come back, probably talk a little bit NBA. We'll see. Eric's got a ditch soon. So
yeah, I'm going to skedaddle. I'm going to head up to Utah State, catch some players after practice. Haven't been able to get up there the last couple of weeks. Plan on talking to Calvin Tyler Jr. and Hale Motuapuaka, get their thoughts about how things are progressing so far and getting ready for Wyoming.
Yeah, so when we'll have a couple minutes of a maybe. I don't know. You might have to leave before we come back. So this might be the last we hear from Eric. But I'll probably talk a little bit of NBA, maybe go over a little bit of, predictions, kind of like we were doing here with Mountain West basketball. We'll maybe do it in the NBA, since NBA starts today. But we'll be back after this on 106.9.
You're first and goal at the 10-yard line with seconds left on the clock. Your running back is poised for the game-winning touchdown, but before you can make the snap, the opposing team just takes the ball and locks it in a safe, and they won't give you the combination unless you pay them $10,000. That's exactly how ransomware works. And in 2021, 2 out of every 3 organizations fell victim to ransomware attacks. Protect your business with Les Olson Security Suite from Les Olson IT. Learn more at lesolson.com.
Why schedule your appliance repair with Daryl's? Because we are factory trained and have experience and parts in stock to get your appliance fixed efficiently and quickly. Hi, I'm Brian, the service manager at Daryl's. We guarantee your satisfaction and promise to give you the 5-star service you deserve. Remember, we can compete with their price, but they can't compete with our service. Daryl's, west on Airport Road. Open till 6 on weekdays, 5 p.m. on Saturdays.
See Daryl's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
Remember last October's huge snowstorm that destroyed trees all over Cache Valley? Bobby and his crew at Hall Tree Care were the most popular guys in town.
Yeah, high five.
Not saying that will happen again. However, I just looked at the forecast for winter and it calls for snow. Snow can wreak havoc in your overgrown trees and shrubs, which can wreak even more havoc in your home and vehicles. Call Hall Tree Care before winter gets here. 760-6587. Ask about their radio discount. That's HULL Tree Care.
Join us at Prodigy Brewing to celebrate Oktoberfest. Delicious specials going on now through the end of October. Come on down and enjoy brats and German potato salad served with our house-made sauerkraut and mustard, tankards and house-brewed beer. You keep the tankard. Find us on Instagram for updates on new events throughout the month of October. Whether you're out with the family or friends, Prodigy Brewing is the place to be in Cache Valley, located at 25 West Center Street in beautiful downtown Logan.
The Young Automotive Group is proud to announce Young Truck and Trailer Center in Cache Valley. Whether it's heavy equipment trailers, horse trailers, race car trailers, or cargo and utility trailers, we're excited to offer some of the finest trailers and flatbed work trucks to Cache Valley. Our team of experts look forward to helping you find the right truck or trailer to fit your needs, with competitive prices offered on every make and model for sale on our lot. With our extensive inventory, you'll find the best deals right here in Cache Valley. Young Truck and Trailer Center, just off Highway 89 in Logan. Think young, drive young.
I've been driving trucks for a long time. Safety is my #1 priority. I know that my truck has huge blind spots. That's why I remember to check my mirrors often for smaller vehicles. Everyone can help keep our roads safe. Next time you're behind the wheel, try to avoid lingering in those blind spots. It can be dangerous. Let's all plan to share the road safely. Learn how at www.sharetheroadsafely.gov.
It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
All right, we're back. More Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen hanging out with me a little while longer. I'm Jason Walker, in case you didn't know. So we have a caller And he tells me he's got a stat that will blow our minds.
Ooh.
He was really persistent in calling in. We were getting through our last segment. He was calling. So we're going to bring in Jan, and he's got a stat that will blow our minds. Jan, go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm glad Eric decided to stick around for this one because it'll be worth it.
Okay.
So, all right. So, of course, we're going to go to the world of hockey. Last week was the opening of the regular season for the NHL. And in the first game of the season, Edmonton Oilers superstar Connor McDavid scored a hat trick and had an assist in the first regular season game. A hat trick is 3 goals in one game.
Mm-hmm.
So,
impressive.
No. All right, so Connor McDavid getting a hat trick is not unusual, but here is the stat. It is the 3rd year in a row that Connor McDavid has opened the regular season with a hat trick.
What?
Oh, dang.
And that's not all. It's the 4th time in his just 6-year career that he's opened the regular season with a hat trick in his first game.
Oh, my word.
Jeez.
And that stat is what will blow your mind.
Yes.
I think it kind of did.
Yes.
Might have to clean the ceiling here in the studio.
That was great.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. That was awesome.
All right,
See you guys later.
Have a good one.
That is nuts. I mean, hello. Welcome to the season.
It's like, this is a guy who shows up for game 1.
God.
It's like, man, I've been practicing this whole offseason. I'm about to show you my stuff.
Don't mess around.
Find out what's in his, his game 1 water bottle. We need to test it for steroids or something.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, that is a good stat. Those are the kind of stats that I love. I know I like looking for little weird stats and things like that, and I end up tweeting them out, and I know I put it in my From the Notebook, if you read that. So just love throwing those things in there. So we're going to go ahead and say goodbye to Eric. He's already...
Yep, I got a jet.
Yeah, he's got to go do some interviews, do some real journalism. Boots on the ground journalism. So say goodbye to Eric. He'll be back tomorrow. We'll both be back tomorrow, obviously, at 4. And just a programming note, obviously we'll have the show tomorrow, but on Thursday the show's going to be basically non-existent. There might be a stretch later, because what's happening on Thursday is we're going to be covering the 4A girls soccer playoffs. And actually, if you tune in around the showtime, you will hear me talking, because I will be on this channel on 106.9, The Fan, but I will be in Draper at Juan Diego High School, and I'll be calling the 4A girls soccer playoffs. The first game starting at about 3 o'clock. It's scheduled for 3 o'clock. It'll be Mountain Crest against Green Canyon. And then at supposedly 5:30, depending on how scheduling goes and how late the Mountain Crest Green Canyon game goes, Skyview will play Snow Canyon. Skyview, who just finished upsetting the 2-seed Ridgeline. I actually was fortunate enough to be able to call that game, watching Skyview beat Ridgeline 1-0 in overtime. Kind of at the death of that first overtime, Amelia Fonua scores a goal from, I think, from watching the video again, it was like 39 yards away from the goal, and she just drops a long ball right underneath the crossbar. So we'll have some girls soccer on Thursday, and then Friday we've got the Skyview game on here, and I can't remember when the Skyview game kicks off, but that'll make the show a little more abbreviated. So got a lot of high school stuff going on this weekend, which unfortunately will shorten this show a little bit, but you still get a lot of great sports content from around the valley, so I don't know. I guess it's kind of the same. So one thing I wanted to bring up, I said we might go to NBA. I think I'm going to kick that down to another segment, because there was one stat. We're going back to stats that kind of blow our mind. This one didn't so much blow my mind as I thought it was just interesting. And I ended up putting it in my preview for the game, which I think should come out later today. But basically, it was a contrast between Utah State and Wyoming. Because one of the themes with Utah State this season is that they always have so many penalties. And like they managed to turn some things around on their offense after the Weber State game. They managed to kind of rediscover their offense, get some more yards. Didn't help against UNLV a ton because they had a ton of turnovers. But they were at least moving the ball some in that game. And then they've slowly kind of progressed until last week was kind of just a fluke because of reasons we've already gone over quite a bit already. Going down to your fourth string quarterback. But with penalties, things have pretty much stayed the same. In the last game, Utah State, they had 9 penalties that were accepted for, I believe, 93 yards. And that's about on par with their season average. Their season average in penalties, 9.3 penalties per game. They have 65 penalties this season. And the 65 penalties is second most in the FBS. The most is actually Alabama at 66. So I guess, a decent company, I guess. And I'm sure Nick Saban's absolutely loving that. He's probably lighting into his team every day for those penalties. So 9.3 penalties per game for 84.3 yards. So obviously they had like 10 more yards. Last time out, 10 more than their average. But generally speaking, the Aggies are like one of the worst teams in terms of being disciplined and not having penalties. Wyoming are one of the best teams at not having penalties. They're 6th in penalties per game. 4.1. Less than half of the penalties that Utah State gets per game. And then they're 9th in yards penalized per game at 37.1. So basically, Utah State is getting twice as many penalties for twice as many yards as Wyoming, if you're just doing some quick and dirty math. And that's something that could definitely flip this game. Because in most scenarios where I imagine Utah State winning, I imagine them scoring in the around 20. And then Wyoming, pretty similar. Maybe a slightly higher scoring version of the Colorado State game we just had. But penalties, they're drive killers. Or in some cases, if they're on defense, they're drive extenders. And in a potentially low-scoring game, if Utah State gets into one of those, they cannot afford to be giving up or, killing drives or extending the opponent's drives. Those kind of things get, exaggerated so much more in these low-scoring games because one drive dramatically alters the game. That one touchdown drive for Utah State where they go from 10 to 17, that was the game-changing drive. It's why Bishop Davenport was the freshman of the week. He doesn't go on that drive, he doesn't win freshman of the week. It was because Utah State had that drive that they were able to win the game. They were able to hold on. One single drive changed the entire game. But let's imagine that in the middle of that, Utah State had like a holding penalty and then a false start. Well, suddenly that drive doesn't happen, doesn't go for a touchdown. Or imagine if Colorado State, instead of, throwing the interception, what if Utah State had jumped offside and that interception hadn't counted? Or if Utah State had committed pass interference and the penalty didn't count. Granted, there was a penalty on that pick six toward the end because there was a holding that took away the touchdown and then unsportsmanlike conduct. So in that way, you can see how much penalties actually impacted that game because instead of a close, I guess the game was kind of already over at that point. Utah State just drove out, ran out the clock. But they could have assured it by going up 24-13 instead of having to they had to take 5 minutes off the clock. They had to gain like 3 first downs. They made it hard on themselves. And Utah State can't afford to make things hard on themselves. So that was just kind of one thing I thought was interesting where as far as penalties, are penalties going to change this game? Are we going to go into this and say, all right, Utah State got penalized 10 times for 109 yards, and Wyoming was only penalized 3 times? Are we going to be in here on Monday saying that was the difference in the game? Because the touchdown drive for Utah State was killed off, or because Wyoming got a pass interference call that helped them go up 23, 13 ended up, keeping Utah State away from coming back in the game. So that's the thought on that. We're going to go to a break really quick. We'll be back. Going to talk a little bit of NBA, some predictions, season predictions. Who's going to be the champs, who's going to be the MVP, the low-hanging fruit. Because NBA starts today, and we got to have these. Now, if you want to send in your predictions, who's going to be the NBA champ, who's going to win MVP, who's going to win some of these other superlatives, go ahead and send that in on the text line. It's 435-339-0321. We'll be back after this on 106.9.
This is Jarek with Jarek's Fine Jewelry. This October is our 14th year anniversary. So to celebrate, we want to treat you to an anniversary date. Make it a date night on us. Come engagement ring or anniversary ring shopping at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. We have thousands of designs to choose from, including the newest custom designs. With no strings attached and no purchase necessary, we will buy your dinner at Bloom Eatery. The entire month of October, come in ring shopping and Bloom is on us. Make date night special. Make it Jarek's.
Hi, this is Tyler. Recently, my father passed away, and White Pine provided the funeral services for our family. They were friendly, thoughtful, and attentive to every detail. It isn't often that a loved one passes away, so it was very important to my family that everything be handled just right. Because my dad was loved by so many people, we had a lot of family and friends that traveled from out of town. I really appreciate how White Pine Funeral Services made sure everyone was comfortable and that the focus was where it needed to be, on my dad and my family. They really took care of us during this tender time.
Are you a small business owner? Who's your bank? This is Bruce Rigby. I want to invite you to bank with us at Cache Valley Bank. We specialize in helping small business, and we have great people. That's the Cache Valley Bank difference. Decisions made locally, without all the red tape, by people who care and know how to help small business. Cache Valley Bank, growing, expanding, and proud to have our roots firmly planted in Cache Valley. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
And now, the Dan Patrick Show.
Dan Patrick.
Judge has had a historical season, but that doesn't mean that you should give him a 10-year deal, which is probably what he's going to want. He's going to be 31 at the start of next season. There have been injuries. That's not a great combination for somebody looking for probably a 10-year contract. Every player ages differently.
The Dan Patrick Show.
Dan and the Danettes and you.
Weekday mornings from 7 to 10 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. The Aggies, Jazz, high schools, even the Pee Wee's T-ball team. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio. The Fan.
And we're back, more Full Court Press here on 106.9 The Fan. Jason Walker with you here. Eric Frandsen has gone off to go talk to some football players. He's going to talk to some Utah State football players. Calvin Tyler and I suddenly forgot the other person he was going to go talk to. Oh, Hale Motuapawaka. We'll have to ask him tomorrow whether or not Hale has his shirt on, because that was something that Eric told me once, was like every time he goes out to practice, every time, Holly's just, after practice, Holly's just still doing some drills when he's always got his shirt off. So we'll have to ask him. Maybe one of you can text him if I forget to bring it up. But ask him whether or not he did the interview where Holly was fully dressed. But want to talk about a little bit of NBA. I know it's not, the NBA is not a super exciting topic around here because the Jazz, aren't going to be good this season. Or at least that's my opinion. There's some people that are predicting the Jazz to be a long shot, maybe a playoff team. I actually at one point was talking like, maybe this roster can perhaps be something close to a playoff team, and I have since changed my opinion on that. Just based on observations and thinking about it more. Just looking like, all right, who do I think is going to win it all? Who do I think is going to win MVP? Some basic things, and I want to hear what you guys have to say on this. If you want to text in, 435-339-0321. That's the text line. You can send in, whatever predictions you want on the NBA. Who wins Rookie of the Year? Who wins Coach of the Year? Who wins whatnot? So just wanted to go over some of my thoughts. Granted, mine are kind of boring, and maybe I shouldn't share them because they are boring. Because I was looking through this, I think, who do I think is going to win the NBA Finals? This is going to be a really tricky pick to make. Because in the NFL, I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl, and that pick's looking pretty shaky right now. But I picked the Warriors to win the NBA Finals, which is kind of boring, and I don't want them to win the NBA Finals. But for me, there's so much experience on that team, and they're still talented enough. They've not hit like the end of their prime. They're not too far advanced in age to start wearing down. So I think that the Warriors, barring maybe a couple of injuries to some key players, Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, whatnot, since they have most of all that together, they've still got a championship caliber roster and the most championship experience of anybody in the NBA. So it's hard for me to pick somebody else. I'd like to be able to pick the Nuggets, but the Nuggets never seem to go anywhere in the playoffs, even though I like Nikola Jokic. But speaking of Jokic, who's a 2-time reigning MVP, I'm not going to pick him for MVP because the entire NBA media world will melt down and explode if Jokic were to win MVP again. They were already whining and crying about him winning it a second time in a row for weird reasons. Basically, the only reason that he was not supposed to win NBA MVP last year, the only argument people had was he can't win it twice in a row. Had nothing to do with whether or not Jokic was the best player in the NBA last year. It had all to do with, legacy. Like, I can't remember who the last person to win back-to-back MVP was. I guess it was LeBron, or the guys who won back-to-back MVPs, LeBron, and I imagine Michael Jordan did it. Larry Bird, I think, won it 3 times in a row. Like, can we put Jokic in that category? It's like, if the dude won MVP twice in a row, he did. It shouldn't matter. But because MVP voting works kind of like that, where people will vote based off of weird storylines. I had to go somewhere else, and I went with Joel Embiid because he was so close last year, and I think he's gonna do well this year. And I think that'll end up winning him MVP. He's gonna put up really great stats, and the 76ers are gonna be good again, and so I think Embiid is finally going to make that push and win MVP. 6891 texts in. They say, I'm happy with whoever wins the championship as long as LeBum and KD or Harden lose. Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of people's opinion. People don't have the same hate for Steph Curry, but they do have that hate for LeBron or Le GM or all the 1,000 different or Le Flop. I know a lot of people. There's a lot of different nicknames for LeBron. And then obviously I've kind of been burned out on Kevin Durant ever since he left OKC, and yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Harden either. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see someone other than the Warriors win it, just for the sake of some. That's why I'd like to see like the Nuggets win. I was happy when the Bucks won. Different things like that. Now we're gonna take another quick break. I gotta get one more break in here, and we're already running towards the end of the show. And then I'll finish up the kind of bout that I've got going here, and at least some of the interesting picks I have going for this. So we'll be back after this.
What makes essential workers essential?
We build safe roads for you to drive on.
We harvest fresh produce for your families to eat.
We help you heal when you're sick.
We get you where you need to go.
We keep where you work and live clean and safe.
We make sure you get what you need to make your household work.
You're the essential workers who help our nation run. You're in every city, town, and corner of our country, and you come from all over the globe. And you have essential protections under the law. I'm Marty Walsh. The Wage and Hour Division at the Department of Labor helps ensure you receive the essential protections you deserve. If you have questions about your pay or about your job protection during an illness, visit our website or call 866-4US-WAGE. That's 866-487-9243. We can provide help in more than 200 languages.
Brought to you by the United States Department of Labor.
Technology can make our lives more fun, convenient, and connect us with friends. But when tech is used for cyberbullying, children's lives can be damaged. Peter and Amanda Como found good communication protects their kids.
I believe that using jw.org was beneficial in preparing me to talk to my children about pitfalls that maybe I wasn't even aware of. Anything that me, as somebody who doesn't typically use too much social media, it was very beneficial to prepare me as a parent, not only to know what my children are facing, but how to address it with them specifically.
One of those resources is the animated video, Beat a Bully Without Using Your Fist. Their 14-year-old daughter picked up tips to help if she was bullied.
What's helped me is to just let it go, or if it's bothering you that much, talk to your parents about it, or an adult. Even though it may be embarrassing or hard to talk about, if you're being bullied, you need to speak up.
To find more tips and tools to protect your child from cyberbullying, look to stopbullying.gov or search bullying on jw.org.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, we meet the challenge. In cybersecurity, protecting and defending in cyberspace. When natural disasters happen, we are there in space.
Houston, contact with a test 1.
As a strong part of the nation's defense, we are there in the community and we are there for our nation. We share a vision to make a difference, united and focused, taking pride in being there in service of our country. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
They never could play it, but they sure can talk about it. Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker on the Full Court Press.
All right, we're back. Final minutes of the Full Court Press. Managed to mess something up, so I had a bit of a pause there. But wanted to finish out the show, basically maybe talk about kind of one more pick that I've got. I don't have the time to go through my full ballot, and I'm not confident on the rest of it anyway, but maybe my one hot take on who I think is going to win NBA awards comes with Defensive Player of the Year. And it's a bit of a hot take, and it's also a bit of a homer take. Because I think Rudy Gobert has a real chance at winning NBA Defensive Player of the Year again. If he was with the Jazz, no chance. Not going to happen. But the fact that he's going to a new team, new place, a chance to, it's kind of like the Coach of the Year effect almost, where, Coach of the Year is based entirely on, how well a coach does. He comes in, and how many more wins can you get based off the last season. That's how Coach of the Year is decided. And so Rudy Gobert is going to have kind of that same effect, where I think he's going to go to Minnesota, and he's going to go in and be really, really good defensively, raise their floor defensively so much that people are just going to be having all these comparisons. Oh, this is how the T-Wolves were last year defensively, and suddenly they're spectacular, this next year, and that's going to really boost him, and people aren't really going to be able to argue against that. And and the main argument against Rudy Gobert for Defensive Player of the Year will mainly be, can we give him another one? Because for some reason, that's an actual argument you make. And people are going to vote against him based off of that. But I think there's enough of the fact that he's changing locations, he's changing teams, and he's going to have such a positive impact on the Timberwolves defense that I really think he has an actual shot at winning Defensive Player of the Year. It's a bit of a long shot because there's going to be other guys. Giannis may be in the mix again. It'll probably end up being somebody who's never been in the Defensive Player of the Year mix before, because we're getting to the point with a lot of these guys where, again, people are making that argument of how many of these awards can you give him to. Because Giannis, I think, has 1 or 2. Gobert's got 3. Can Marcus Smart win it again? Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out, but that's going to do it for us here on the show. Again, Jason Walker will have Eric Frandsen back with you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a good night, everybody.